Hello, everyone. Welcome to Amplify Women in Research. I'm very pleased today to have Dr. Olga Theou with us. Dr. Theou is a Canada Research Chair in Physical Activity, Mobility, and Healthy Aging at Dalhousie University in the School of Physical Therapy. Thanks for being here today, Dr. Theou.
Thank you for having me.
So let's get started with some of the work that you're doing. What's some of your most cited work?
Can I pick two? Because I
Sure.
can't choose. Okay, this is the top. I mean, the most high side is a collaborative project. I'll talk a little bit about the projects that I led more. I was more heavily involved. So as expected, I think for most of us, the most highly cited was actually a scoping review, a systematic review, which is normally much easier to be cited with a review. But we did. It was part of my PhD. It was actually one of the first projects I did, and it was a systematic review on exercise interventions on frailty, which for that time, it was quite novel, it was new, there were not that many out. Now I know that's way more published, and to be honest, now looking back, I was like, we had hard time explaining to editors and reviewers about the importance of this, and I could see much more hesitation. Now everybody would say, of course, we need to talk about exercise and frailty. But that was the first project that it was also part of PhD, and I think all of us, we have a special connection with our projects that we do during our PhD. So it's, I thought we put a little bit of extra effort and a little bit more emotional about this paper. So, but I think it was a good paper. It was an important paper. Many people said that it was a good resource for people. And even though we didn't follow in its way the traditional meta-analysis plan, we were more descriptive. We still felt that it was a good resource for people to understand how exercise and frailty relate. And the second paper was on was one of the first I did for my postdoc actually here when I started in Halifax, and we were looking at different frailty tools and how they're different, how they relate to each other, what's their prediction ability for mortality, which was again a good idea because it was one of the first papers who put all the tools together and talk about them and what's the common things around them and what's the differences, and how they could be useful for research purposes and for clinical purposes. And it was actually picked from the best papers from the Journal of American Geriatric Society in between 2010 and 2015, so which was a good stamp on the paper, so we appreciate that. But that's the two that it was, and when you told me about this, I actually had to check on my Google Scholar because I wasn't even sure which ones were the top, but I'm glad to see them be highly cited and people find them useful.
Yeah, it's interesting. One of the themes from these interviews I've been doing is that a lot of the successful researchers had that success in grad school. Like, it's so important to make meaningful contributions in grad school because it really sets up your career, right? So I think that's important for the grad students listening to these interviews to think about. Like, just take the time and get the papers done well so that they're meaningful contributions, and you'll set your career up nicely.
And sometimes you don't like, it's easier to see it 10 years later, right? It's funny how that moment you don't feel like that, or either you feel it's the best thing in the world and nobody appreciates as I feel, or the opposite of like, I'm a small person, I don't know, like there are so many big names out there, what I'm trying to tell. So it's an interesting approach. And I remember one of my master supervisors for my master's program, they actually told me, because I'm a little bit of perfectionist, and I thought it's like, it has to be the perfect project and everything. It was like, you can get the Nobel Prize in your PhD, it's okay. Don't get your Nobel Prize for your master's project. Like, you can wait for the next one. So it's always like the next one to look forward. So
yeah, exactly. Actually, that opens up to the next question. Like you said, sometimes the projects that you think are going to be successful aren't. Is there a project that stands out in your mind, something that you thought, oh, this is going to be a game changer, this is going to be so impactful, and it kind of fell flat?
It's actually, again, part of my PhD. Interesting. And it was my main paper of my PhD. So the systematic review was more like, it was an elective. I did it as an elective, and that was way more cited than actually my main paper, which I thought it was like, again, it should get a Nobel Prize. I don't know what happened I don't know what happened in that year, but I was convinced about this. So I'm joking about it, but I really thought it was a good project because we did long-term with our supervisors now there in Kelowna, UBC Okanagan, but we looked at electromyography, long-term electromyography, surface electromyography in people across levels of frailty. And I think the fact that we managed to recruit frailer women up to the age of 90 to wear 10 hours EMG devices with cords at that time, not cordless, with cords, and a GPS watch and an accelerometer, and really understand very well how their muscles were working. Because people who are in the physical activity, we are so used to the accelerometers, pedometers, and this type of devices thinking about movement, but it's like going to where the resource, where the muscle starts, like where, not where it starts actually, it's not even the start, but anyway, but maybe what I mean, like it's actually understanding the muscle to understand the movement. At that time I thought like this is what my career will be basically. I didn't end up continuing that, but I thought that's fascinating. I should do a career on that topic basically.
That's funny. I know, I think some of the work that we do that we think is going to be like so huge, it ends up being so niche that it's almost like it doesn't get the same uptake. And like you said, when you do those systematic reviews, I'm not sure how many people read them carefully, but they're citing them, right? So
Yeah.
interesting, like balance between highly cited work versus highly like specific and intricate work, right?
And it has to do a little bit, sorry, I was cutting, but it's also that, like, in a way, our knowledge translation is like everything we feel about the paper and our data collection, it doesn't always translate in the paper. So we're missing sometimes, I mean, we do have a voice in our papers, but it's not everything that we experienced in a project. And in a way, we don't have sometimes a resource or an avenue, this voice to be in our papers together so people understand what that meant to us and what really we observed. Sometimes we just focus on the tables and figures and this is the results.
So that's a great point, like for grad students listening, taking the time to come up with those infographics and those video abstracts and stuff, is probably really worth it, because the title and the figures and tables, people might not fully understand the contribution of your work, right? So putting it in those layman's terms is really important. So my next question for you is there a current project that you're doing that you think is going to be very impactful?
Well, we are actually doing a project right now with COVID, which we all think that is going to be the next big thing too. That's not going to get a Nobel Prize, I know that. But now I'm in the level that I understand our projects will not get a Nobel Prize. I live with that now, so I'm okay with that. So we are doing a study on COVID-19 and frailty. So we are testing how different levels of frailty would have impact on development of COVID, progression, and outcomes related to COVID. And we're testing frailty in a couple of different ways in people. And we were lucky that we're actually collaborating with more than 15 international centers, more than 10 countries. And it was interesting. It was one of my first big multi-site projects, and it was started within a couple of months. Like it was very, very short time frame. But you don't realize the strength of like working as a group. I mean, we work as a group, but it's like you expect, like your group could be even much bigger than traditional groups. And how, yes, like smaller sites, even if you contribute 20 people, 50 people in your data collection, that adds up a lot in the end and makes it, the external validation of your work is much better too, by contributing from different countries, different sites.
Yeah, it's funny. I think most of us probably are always complaining about how annoying it is to work in those big groups. So it's to hear that positive side, because it is often worth it. Yeah,
definitely. It's the one thing I'm getting from this is like, even if the project doesn't win the great prizes, but you would expect that the framework of it and understanding you collaborate in this level. And I agree, like there's a level of there's a challenge related to the coordination of this project, but I definitely think it's worth it. You just have to design it a little bit slower and put a little bit more efforts in the beginning, but definitely worth it.
So to wrap things up, do you have any additional messages for early career researchers and women in particular?
I am more in the receiving side than in the giving side of advices, I think, in my stage of my career. But I mean, the one thing that I thought is helpful when people tell me is about learning how to say no and not feeling guilty. It's about not feeling guilty that it's Sunday and you enjoy your life or you don't work, not feeling guilty about saying no, not feeling guilty about so many other things we do. It's a process that I think it's a slow process and we learn as we go in academia, but I find it the most useful in my life, at least. I think it's some other people too. It's common.
For sure. I know. And it's funny. It's like the whole, we should go backwards, right? Like the wisdom we gained and then we've lost sort of our energy and our youth to be able to engage in all the things we want to. So it's true. Like, I think it's important to say no and have that work-life balance for sure. Thank you so much for doing this. I think this was really fun. I'm really excited to read some of your upcoming work as well. And I know I will stay connected for sure.
No, thank you for inviting me. It was great. Thank you.